Hello and Happy New Year. Welcome. A whole new year, 2021. Oh! I actually recorded this video not in 2021, so this is from the past to the future. Anyway, I hope your New Year's was awesome. And today, we're going to be talking about the three wise men. Oftentimes, related to the Christmas story, and I know Christmas is over, but it's still just as important when it's not during Christmas time. So, it had been more than a year since Jesus' birth, and all the excitement of the angels and shepherds, Joseph and Mary had been to the temple in Jerusalem and were back, living in Bethlehem with little baby Jesus. Far to the east, at the time Jesus had been born, another exciting story had started. Some important men, called Magi, were carefully watching the stars. It was their job to study stars and then write down what they learned. Magi were called wise men because they knew many things. People gave them a lot of respect. One day, as the wise men were looking at the sky, they noticed a brand new star. Whoa, that's pretty crazy. These guys have been studying stars for most of their lives. All right, so seeing a brand new star is pretty cool. Now, for people who watch the stars today, a new star, yeah, it's a very big deal. But to these wise men, it was more than a big deal. You see, this was no ordinary star. It was big and bright, and the Magi could see that it had a special meaning. What do you think the star meant? The wise men knew that the star was a special sign from God, that a new king had been born to the Jews. Even though they lived far away from Israel, the wise men decided to go and honor the baby king. The Magi loaded up their camels and donkeys with supplies and expensive gifts to take to the king. They set off. These men had to travel far for a long time across a huge desert. They finally arrived in the country of Israel, and they traveled straight to the capital city of Jerusalem. I'm going to read Matthew 2:2 to find out what the wise men did when they arrived in Jerusalem. They asked, "Where is the child who has been born to be King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose. Now we have come to worship him." When the Magi arrived in Jerusalem, they looked for the royal family. They started asking people where the new king was. What do you think people said? No one seemed to know anything about a new king. Oh, come on. Bro. There we go. There was already a ruler in Jerusalem, right? Already a king, King Herod. Herod really liked being king and had done some pretty terrible things to make sure no one took being king away from him. Herod had even killed some people because he was so afraid that one of them might steal the throne from him. That's messed up. So when Herod heard that the wise men were asking about a new king, yeah, take a guess, he wasn't happy. King Herod decided to ask some questions of his own. He called the wise men. He knew that the Jews had been waiting for this new king, this new special savior, Messiah, to be born. So Herod called together Jewish priests and religious teachers. And he says, "Where do the prophets say that the Messiah is going to be born?" In Bethlehem, the leaders told him. And the prophet Micah wrote that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. Aha, Herod thought. He might have a good idea. Or maybe a bad idea, depending, which way you're looking at it. King Herod, it was a good idea. Everyone else, bad idea. Bethlehem is just down the road. So he came up with a plan, an evil plan. He secretly called the wise men. "Bethlehem is the place you're looking for," he told them. "Go and look carefully for the child, and then come back to me. Tell me where he is so I can go and worship him too." Do you think Herod actually wanted to worship the new king, the savior, the Messiah? No way. Herod was like, "I'm going to find that baby, and I'm going to stop him from becoming king." He had a very bad idea, but we'll find out more about his plot later. The wise men were eager to be on their way. Bethlehem was only a few miles away, so they were close to their destination. As the Magi traveled the last few miles of their journey, the star went ahead of them, leading them to the very end. When they reached the house where Jesus was, the star stopped. The Magi were full of joy. they had been traveling such a long distance to finally find the Savior, the Messiah. They went into the house, and there they saw Jesus and his mother, Mary. The wise men bowed to worship King Jesus. Then they opened up the treasures they had, carried across the desert, and offered their gifts of gold, expensive perfumes, and spices. The wise men had given their very best to worship Jesus, the King of the Jews. So, when the wise men first saw the new star, they knew that a very special baby had been born as the King of the Jews. This baby was God's special gift to all people, his own son. The wise men wanted to honor the baby by giving him their best treasures. It says that all nations will come to worship God. And that's exactly what the wise men did. They made a very long trip to worship Jesus and offer him their gifts. And you and I can worship Jesus all the time, too, in the ever-present. When you see a star, use that as a reminder that God is constantly inviting you to worship him and to love him. So, always take an opportunity, as many as you can, to worship God because he's worth it. And also, it does great things for your soul. I will see you again next week.